If you're in the market for a new GPU, you need to be very careful. Some used mining GPUs are being sold as new by Chinese retailers, but that could obviously spread to other parts of the world pretty easily as well. To make the GPUs appear new, miners are now repainting the chips along with adding realistic looking serial numbers as well. Don't fall for the scam and always check for missing seals, screws, stickers, and discolored chips. Also helping to spread the message by liking the video and following the channel would be very much appreciated. And if you are buying a new GPU, I'd recommend going with a reputable retailer. So unfortunately, this does make a lot of sense because obviously you can sell a new GPU for a lot more than a used GPU, not to mention all the stigma around used mining GPUs. People usually want to stay away from those because you don't really know how they've been used, right? They could have been mining 24/7 for like a full year in a warehouse that was maybe quite warm or something like that. So the GPUs might not have that much life left in them because usually when you're buying a used GPU from someone that just used it as like a normal consumer GPU, you don't really care because the GPU is just gonna become so obsolete by the time that it dies that you're just not gonna care. However, with mining GPUs, if they've been mined on a lot, like all the time, maybe they've been overclocked, maybe the thermals were not the best, you could actually experience some GPU issues like a year or two down the line, which would obviously be pretty bad. So these two YouTubers over here, they have discovered this. Obviously, this is a pretty hard thing to come across because you basically just have to buy a whole bunch of random GPUs, take off the coolers, and then just start checking out the chips, which is obviously a lot of work. And also, unfortunately, this just happens a lot in the used GPU space because it's pretty easy to just say that your 1 or 2 year old heavily used GPU is only like a week old, right? Like if you just clean off the dust and it looks shiny and new, you can just sell it for a lot more money, especially if you say like, hey, yeah, no, this is not a mining GPU. I mean, like, how could it be? Like, look at it, it's so clean. And I know a lot of people that have actually resold their old hardware as like lightly used hardware. In fact, sometime back I was selling my RTX 2060, which I used for like 2 years, and I could have sold it as like a pretty new card because in my case I have a lot of air filters, I keep it very clean, so it looked shiny and new, everything worked. Of course, I even still have all the original packaging like right over there where my thumb is. But you know, I didn't do that. Obviously, depending on what your morals are, you can do that or not. So as you can see, I obviously kept the box and just sold the GPU as used because I like to keep my boxes because I'm a nerd. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are just not gonna notice this. Now, for me personally, I wouldn't even notice this. Now, I wouldn't have bought sort of like a used GPU off of AliExpress, for instance, anyways, because that's just not really a great idea, especially if you have some problems and you need like your warranty and stuff like that. But let's say if I did and the GPU chips were just sort of like repainted and also just look, if they would just look very new because there wasn't any dust, I very likely just wouldn't have known if the GPUs just functioned, because if I would just get a GPU, I wouldn't take it apart and start looking at the chips and maybe start like scratching at the chips to see if they were repainted or something like that. I would just get the new GPU, stress tested, and that'd be it. And who knows, then maybe 1 or 2 years down the line, I could be surprised when my memory chips would start sort of degrading, or when my GPU would just start having weird errors and stuff like that. So it doesn't really mean a lot when I say be careful. I don't know how widespread this is. Obviously, a ton of GPUs were purchased for crypto mining back in the day. So I would just sort of stay away from the used market because of this, or maybe really try to find someone normal that just use their GPU for gaming, or just buy a new GPU from a very reputable retailer, not just, you know, like AliExpress, where you basically just have resellers and stuff like that.